I work at a graveyard. It's the kind of job that many people think about with unease or simply want to avoid thinking about it all. But for me, it's just life. Quiet, steady, and punctuated with moments that are anything but quiet. Today, I just have one thing to say. Plastic. Graveyards here in Norway come with a unique set of rules. By law, graves are protected for 20 years. That means no digging, no disturbing the ground, nothing. After those 20 years, the spots can be reused if the family doesn't pay for longer protection. It's practical, necessary even, since land is precious and space is limited. Normally, by the time we reopen a grave after those 2 decades, the body inside should be nothing more than soil, decomposed, gone, really. But plastic changed all that. Back in the 1950s through the 1980s, it was common, almost standard practice to bury bodies wrapped tightly in plastic. The idea was to minimize smell and leakage. To keep things sanitary, they said. I'm sure it seemed like a good idea then. Who would have guessed it would become such a curse? I've been part of many burials in reused grave sites, but one experience stands out like a dark stain on my memory. It was a chilly autumn morning when we were called to reopen a grave that was around 50 or 60 years old. The family had decided not to extend the protection, so it became available again. Normally, these graves are peaceful to open, earth soft and crumbly, the past neatly returned to the earth. But this one, it was different. As we broke the first layer of soil, the smell hit me immediately. There's a certain scent in graveyards you grow used to a mix of earth. Damp wood, moss, and the faint odor of flowers left behind. The smell was not that. It was thick, rancid, sour, something rotten in a way that words can barely capture. The plastic wrapping around the body had prevented decomposition. The body was no longer decayed. It was just marinated. In its own juices, left to stew in the suffocating plastic cocoon for half a century. I looked down into the coffin, and what I saw was almost unbearable. The body lay preserved in a grotesque stillness, swollen and distorted from decades trapped inside the airtight wrap. The horror of it cut deeper than the stench. This wasn't nature's cycle, it was a morbid time capsule. The sight was enough to make me want to step back, but this was a job. Someone's loved one deserved respect and burial. We finished the task quietly, my hands numb despite the cold. That day made me realize how some well-meaning changes can have unforeseen consequences. The plastic that was supposed to protect and contain ended up preserving the past in a way no one intended. Norwegian cemeteries have been wrestling with this issue for years. When grave reuse laws were first adopted, the plastic problem wasn't fully understood. Thousands of bodies wrapped in plastic had not decomposed. They just sat there, preserved beneath the soil. The graveyard where I work had to adapt. We started injecting lime solutions into the ground around these graves to break through the plastic barrier, hoping to speed up decomposition artificially. The process takes less than a year, but it's an effort born of necessity, trying to undo years of well-meaning but misguided burial practices. It's strange to think back to those post-war decades when plastic was heralded as a miracle for burial practices. Quieter funerals, cleaner grave sites. But today, those graves stand as grim reminders of something else, how progress sometimes carries a hidden cost. This struggle isn't just practical, it touches deeply on how we honor the dead. Norway has a rich tradition of respecting ancestors and the final resting place. The thought of disturbing a grave, of reopening it to make space for another, can unsettle many. But with limited land, reuse is a reality we face, and we must balance respect with practicality. The plastic issue also makes me wonder about what else we don't see, the secrets buried beneath layers of earth, waiting for time or human hands to reveal them. I've shared this story many times with people outside the graveyard, and I can see how it fascinates and horrifies in equal measure. Plastic, the symbol of disposable convenience, has made even death complicated here in Norway. It stopped what nature was supposed to do. When I finish a day's work, I often walk the grounds, past rows of graves, each one with stories unspoken. I think about those who came before, and those who will come after. I think about the plastic-wrapped bodies, the unexpected time capsules stilled beneath our feet. For those of us who work here, it's more than just moving earth and placing bodies. It's a reminder that death, like life, doesn't always follow the plan we set. So there it is, plastic. Not just waste that litters our streets or fills our oceans, but something that has seeped into the most sacred of places, disrupting the natural order in ways we're still unraveling. And while the law protects the graves for 20 years, it's clear that some things take longer, some consequences last far beyond what we expect. I used to work as a funeral director, part of a family business that had been running for decades. It's the kind of job where you become familiar with death in ways most people never want to think about. You learn to care for the living left behind, but also accept the quiet inevitability of being around those who have passed on. It's a strange balance, really a mixture of sorrow, respect, and the unexpected moments that no manual ever prepares you for. One night still stands out in my memory. It was late after a visitation had ended at the funeral home, the kind you prepare for with careful thought. Flowers arranged just so, chairs positioned for comfort, soft lighting that's gentle on teary eyes. The kind where family and friends come to say goodbye, to remember a life, to find some small measure of peace in the company of others. That evening, our team had finished tidying up. The last guests had long since left. The hallways were quiet, bathed in the soft glow of overhead lights. I was upstairs reviewing some documents when one of our workers came to find me. He had an odd look on his face, half surprised, half unsettled. "You won't believe this," he said, still catching his breath. There was one last guest in the visitation room. I thought I needed to help him out, but when I went there, no one was there at all. I raised my eyebrows, waiting for him to continue. He told me how he walked through the empty room, flicking the lights just in case. Nothing. No sign of anyone. "I swear," he said, "I saw a man. Older, nicely dressed, just standing by the corner. Something about his story made the hair on my neck stand up. It wasn't just a random tale. I knew that man. Well, I recognized the description immediately. He matched the photo of my grandfather displayed in the hallway. Part of a memorial our family had put up after he passed. "Did you tell anyone else?" I asked quietly. "No," he said. "I didn't want to seem crazy. That's understandable. Seeing a ghost isn't exactly standard operating procedure, even in a funeral home. Most people expect silence, maybe sorrow. But a visitor after hours? No one's prepared for that." For a while, we didn't speak much about it. Just a strange night. Maybe one of those things explained by fatigue or imagination. But the more I thought about it, the more it felt important. Like something trying to say a final goodbye. My grandfather wasn't just any man. He was the heart of our family business, the one who built it from scratch with quiet determination and care. He believed in treating every family, every deceased person, with dignity. It was more than a job to him. It was a calling. Losing him was hard on all of us. He had been around the funeral home for as long as I could remember, his presence steady, like one of the walls holding everything together. The way he handled the business was gentle but efficient, with a focus on making hard moments easier. So the idea of seeing him after he'd passed wasn't just a random occurrence. It felt like a sign, like he was still watching over the place he loved, the place he'd given so much to. One night after that, I stayed late in the visitation room alone. I sat quietly on one of the chairs, letting the hum of the building settle around me. The air smelled faintly of lily and old wood, a comforting smell I'd come to associate with peace. I remember closing my eyes for a moment, and for a long while there was nothing but stillness. And then, just as I was about to leave, a sudden chill brushed past me. Not a cold wind, but something softer, something like a gentle presence. I opened my eyes slowly, half expecting to see him standing in the corner. But there was only the empty room and that feeling that I wasn't alone. Looking back, I realized that moments like this are why the funeral business isn't just about logistics and paperwork. It's about connection. Between the living and the dead. Between those who stay and those who have gone. I never saw my grandfather's ghost again. At least not visibly. But that night and that story from my coworker remind me that sometimes what we can't explain is just as real as what we see. The funeral home has always been full of stories like this. Stories that make you question the line between this world and the next. Sometimes, when the visitation ends and the guests have gone home, we're left with the quiet presence of those who still linger. I learned to listen for the silence, and sometimes to believe in the unseen. My grandfather used to dig graves and maintain the grounds at the local cemetery. It was his job for years long before I learned the ropes of the family business. He was a sturdy man, quiet, mostly someone you trusted without question. If there was a gravestone to be straightened, a patch of grass to trim, or a hole to dig, he was the one who'd take care of it. But one story of his always stayed with me, one that explained why he suddenly stopped all of that and decided to open a florist shop instead. It was a crisp autumn day when it happened, he told me. The kind where the air feels sharp, but the sunlight still holds warmth. He was at the cemetery, tending to a grave near the back by the old primary school's grounds. The grave belonged to his old teacher, someone he'd remembered fondly. Though their relationship had been a bit strict, the kind teachers who made you fear a bad grade, but also pushed you to do better. My grandfather was near that grave, just finishing up some trimming when, out of nowhere, he heard talking. Actual voices. But no one was around. He paused, looked around. The tree swayed quietly, no children playing nearby, no other visitors. Just silence except for the voices he swore he heard. He went closer to the grave, trying to catch a glimpse of whoever might be there. But there was nothing. No shadow, no movement, not even a stray animal. He shrugged it off at first, thinking maybe his mind was playing tricks on him. But then, as he was turning to leave, he swore on his own life he heard his old teacher's voice calling him. Clear as day, the voice wasn't loud, but it was unmistakable. It spoke about his poor life choices, about the path he had taken. Words that cut deeper than any shovel or hoe ever could. That moment shook him to his core. He told me he could feel the weight of those words, like a cold hand on his shoulder. It wasn't just a scare. It wasn't just ghost stories. It was something real to him, an undeniable sign. After that day, he refused to dig another grave or maintain that cemetery. Said the voices made it clear his time doing that kind of work was done. He left it all behind and opened a florist shop. Business is booming, by the way. People love flowers. I get it. It's a much softer world than graveyards and shovels. Yet he never fully escaped that place in his mind. He still fears the cemetery. He tells me sometimes late at night that he can still hear the voice calling him back. Not in a frightening way exactly, but as a reminder. A warning. I've grown up hearing the story more times than I can count. Each time my grandfather adds a little detail, a flicker of movement, a whisper just on the edge of hearing, the rustling of leaves when no breeze blows. It builds the atmosphere slowly, and by the end I'm there in that quiet graveyard with him, feeling the weight of the past pressed into the soil. Working in the family business myself, I often wonder what it would be like to hear a voice like that, to feel that kind of pull. His story is a dark thread weaving through our family legacy. It's those moments between the living and the dead, the seen and the unseen, that remind me why respect and caution come hand in hand when working in graveyards. I don't know if what he heard was real or just his mind conjuring the past, but for him, those words changed everything. And sometimes when I'm alone at the cemetery after dusk, I think I understand why.